Well, I like making food that tastes good, and I don't even mind making food that tastes bad. But if I had to choose, I think I'd pick the former. So if you want to know how to make it a little bit better, but maybe not quite as good as it maybe could be, I think that you should listen to what I'm talking about. And if you learn a little something from this, well, I hope it served a purpose, and hey, that's what we're here for. Good, better. Nailed it. Woo! Welcome to the Cook Better podcast. My name is Corey, and I don't know if it's going to come through or not, but if it sounds a little bit different, that's because this week I'm recording this episode in my kitchen rather than in my basement studio like I normally do. And that's because it's kind of a weird thing. I've got the house to myself for the most part. The only exception on that is that my cat is still here. But my wife and kids and our dog all went up north. It's spring break here. And I couldn't go with them because I had a class last night, and I have a class Saturday morning for about 8 hours as well. So I am in town, but I have the house to myself, and I better get it cleaned up and make sure everything's looking good and looking like I did something before they get back. But, that shouldn't be a big deal because I've got a few projects that I've got to work on too. I've got some stuff that I'm trying to get wrapped up here in the spring. Looking forward to the summer, looking forward to some warmer weather, some sunshine, and being able to just for stuff to start growing. It's all brown. Slowly getting into the green season on the trees and on the plants and the grass, and soon enough I'll be complaining because it's hot and I've got to mow the lawn and all the other things that is just, the stuff that we complain about that aren't really things that we should be even complaining about. But today I wanted to talk about breakfast sandwiches. And not just breakfast sandwiches, but kind, I think a breakfast wrap or a breakfast burrito would fall into that category. And I think it's an interesting topic, and I honestly don't eat breakfast a lot. I'm not my job, I've got to be to work by 7 a.m. at the latest. Usually it's 6 a.m., and I'm not getting up at 5 and waking everybody up, making eggs and toast and doing all the things that you see in the movies. I'm not home making breakfast. I'm not even home eating cereal, to be honest. Most days, I would say 95% of working days, I don't even eat breakfast. And that's pretty common in the blue collar industry as a whole, I think. Unless you're somebody that grabs something from the gas station on your way to work, most guys are. And that's why you'll see guys eating almost their whole lunch at 9:30 in the morning when first break hits. They're pounding their entire lunch because they didn't eat any breakfast. Seems early to some people, but when you left your house at 5 a.m. to get to the job site at 6 and you started hanging drywall or framing up some walls or whatever it might be, pulling wire or whatever, if you're at an electrician at 6 a.m., your body's moving and you're working hard. 3.5 hours later, you need a little nourishment. And so eating your lunch at 9:30 isn't so weird then. But I say all that to say that I don't do breakfast that often. And it's not usually a full breakfast, but I do like a good breakfast. And a lot of these items are things that you can meal prep if you get into it and make it and have it ready. It's easy. Throw it in the microwave for 40 seconds before you head out the door, and you can just eat it on the way to work if you want to go that route. I think that, there's been a lot of studies, and I am just pulling things out of thin air here because I don't have an exact reference, but I've heard talked about the fact that as Americans, that we don't spend a lot of time sitting down at a table and eating food. And that is part of why sometimes we can tend to overeat, because we're distracted by what we're doing rather than paying attention to what we're eating. We're on the go, you're driving. Obviously, if you're driving now, you're limited to the food supply that you grab or that you have prepared or that you buy at the gas station or whatever, which is not the way to go, obviously. But you're limited in that sense, but you're not paying attention. You're eating fast, and so your stomach doesn't tell you that you're full or whatever, or you're sitting in front of a TV or you're sitting in front of your computer at work, and you're kind of working. It's a working lunch. You're just eating as you're working. And I've found myself too. I've kind of got almost a hybrid type job where I'm at the office sometimes and sometimes I'm in the field. So I'll be, trying to get work, because is there something about sitting in an office where taking an actual break and stopping working? You're already sitting down at the computer anyway, so I almost consider that a break from the physical labor that I'd normally be doing. So it feels weird to completely stop working and eat. But that's what we do. We eat at our computer while we're working. And I've got, even when I try to eat healthy earlier this week, I just having like pita chips and hummus as a lunch and maybe some cheese. And then I put hot sauce on it or whatever. And that's what I'm having for lunch. But I'll eat an entire container, go to Whole Foods or something and buy these the pita chips and a tub of hummus. And if I'm not careful, if I'm working eating while I'm working, I'll just end up eating the entire container of hummus, an entire thing of pita chips, which also ends up being a fairly expensive meal, just because I'm not paying attention. I'm just sitting there and eating. So I'm not sure why I went off on this tangent, but it's just something to kind of think about. I don't make eggs and everything very often. Sometimes on Saturdays or something, I'll make breakfast burritos or breakfast sandwiches or eggs in general. But this is just kind of more for on the go. And these things that I'm going to talk about, you can really meal prep and put in the freezer. Like I said, throw them in the microwave or take them to work and you can have them for lunch or whatever. So I think it's going to be just a good, or have them for a snack later at night. That's another option. Really, obviously, breakfast. I say breakfast, but we're talking eggs and whatever, meat maybe, or what. We consider it breakfast, but it's any time of day. McDonald's is open breakfast all day, right? So we can eat breakfast all day. But before I get into digging deep into it, I've got a little, I think there's something that we got to get into.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, if I can direct your attention to the meals from last week.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Maybe a bit excessive. I haven't got a music bed to it yet, but I'm workshopping these things here. So yeah, I think I missed a calling as a hockey announcer or a baseball. I think that'd be kind of fun. But anyway, the meals that I had last week, let's get into it, because I know that you're interested in the kind of stuff that other people are cooking. If you're like me, you're wondering, what in the world is he having this week? What kind of food did he make? What did he waste his money on? Is he really eating healthy or not? That's what we're all about. And I'm going to be honest with this stuff, because, it doesn't do anybody any good to lie, just like telling your doctor whatever. What's the point? What's the point? Let's be honest here. So I think where I left off was the last episode, the night before, I had done chicken fajitas. That's where I had left off. Now, night number one after, this is April 3rd. This was incredible. And this was a recipe that I found on, what do you call it? YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. And I can't remember what the French word is. I was going to write it down. It starts with a B, but it's a French word for the type of potatoes that I made. And they were absolutely fantastic. And in all honesty, they're absolute garbage for you. But I had bought some Yukon Gold potatoes, and so I sliced them on the mandolin. I got all my fingers intact. It's a beautiful thing. No bloodshed happened in the kitchen. That was good using that mandolin. But you slice your potatoes with a mandolin. We're talking 16th, 1/8 inch thick, maybe 1/8 inch thick or so, maybe a little less than that. And I had made some clarified butter. Clarified butter is really easy to make if you've never done it before. I strongly recommend you give it a try. It just takes the milk solids out of there. So it makes it so the butter doesn't burn. The milk solids are what burns in butter. So if you take those out, now you've got a butter that's not going to burn at a high heat. Because as you probably know, if you're cooking butter and you have a really hot pan, it turns brown and then it turns, it black and burns, and that quickly. It's not near as, can't handle the high heat like olive oil can, and even olive oil's got a pretty low smoke point. But if you leave the milk solids in there, you've got a really low smoke point. If you take the milk solids out just by heating up the butter, and then the milk solids, sometimes they'll kind of float or you get some like foam at the top. You can take a spoon and just kind of scrape or scoop them off and try to just get the froth, that. And then sometimes the milk solids sink to the bottom, and there's really long ways of doing it. There's a chef on YouTube that I follow that is pretty, at least in my opinion, a very good chef, and he just does it using the microwave, and as long as when you pour it, you don't let the milk solids at the bottom pour out. He said that's just the same clarified butter. I've never tried it in the microwave. I just use the stove and do it a little bit longer route to do it. But anyway, make some clarified butter. It doesn't burn. So this had Yukon Gold potatoes, clarified butter, some beef stock, and then the only other thing with it is caramelized onions. Now, I'm not going to lie, this potato dish itself, the grand total of time was a pretty long time to make it. It ended up being total good 2 hours. Now, obviously, that's not me standing over the stove for 2 hours. If you've ever caramelized onions, you slice up your onions and you put them in the pan. I like butter with mine. You can do a little butter, olive oil, whatever. I just do butter in the pan, and it's because the heat's not real high, medium low, and a little salt just to help soften the onions. And then you just have to let it go. You just have to let it low and slow, and these onions get translucent stage, which is a lot of the time when we're sauteing, when we pull it off. If you're making caramelized onions, you just got to leave them on there. And you don't want the heat too hot to where you're getting brown, crisp edges. It needs to be low enough where it's still providing heat and it's still cooking, but it's not burning. And so that might involve, or definitely does involve, stirring every once in a while, which is essential to making sure that you don't get burning. But that takes a long time, usually depending on how many onions, obviously, but it's a good 45-minute process. And it's something that if you're in the area, if you're making this dish, that's definitely something you want to start with, or any dish where that's involved. If you ever made French onion soup, that's a big part of it. But if you can do your prep, I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background. He's driving me nuts. He's an old cat. He's 16 years old, and he meows nonstop. So if that's coming through, just know he's fine. I just fed him before I started recording, and I think maybe he thinks I'm talking to myself and he's worried about me. Maybe that's what's happening. Anyway, so that caramelized onion process is what takes the longest. And it's something that even if you, every 5 minutes or so, you come back and just kind of stir it around, you don't want to get too crazy, and it's not a constant stir thing, maybe 5-10 minutes, check on it. When you dial in your heat or dial in your temperature, you can really then, you start to figure out like where the sweet spot is. And so once you get that figured out, you can walk away for a few minutes and then come back and stir, and you'll be fine. And maybe prep the other things. Like that's what I did. I did the onions, or got them going once they were going, and I was at a safe temperature. And as I started doing my potatoes, like I said, I sliced them on the mandolin. Now, once you have those ingredients, that's all your ingredients. You got onion, and I use sweet onion, like Vidalia onion, Spanish onion, whatever. And I was not real impressed with this onion. If I'm going to be honest with you, it's spring right here. We're not getting fresh produce from the farmers or whatever. I went to Walmart and I had bought an onion. So and I honestly, you open up you peel the onion skin off, and that outer skin is all, or that inner outer skin is all green, and you're like, oh man. And I'm going to end up with a miniature onion here if I don't just deal with some of the green. So really the onion I had definitely wasn't ideal, but it worked great. And it gets so sweet. It's amazing what the flavor an onion has when it gets caramelized like that. But you have your caramelized onion, Yukon Gold potatoes, beef stock, and clarified butter. And that's it for kind of your main ingredients. You have a little bit of seasoning if you've got fresh thyme, salt, pepper, and that's really it. And then you just layer it. You layer this stuff. You put I can't think. You put the clarified butter in first. Then you just do a single layer of the potatoes, and I did it in a cast iron pan. Single layer of potatoes. Then you pour a little bit more clarified butter, a little beef stock, and then put another layer. And season in between the layers too. Just a little bit of salt. You don't want to get carried away. I use unsalted butter. My beef stock isn't like high sodium, so there's really not much salt unless I add it. And then you just keep layering it. And I ended up with about 5 layers, I think. I could have gone more. I wish I would have gone more when it was all said and done. But, I'm sorry. The caramelized onions are at the very bottom of the pan. They're the first layer is your caramelized onions, and then your first layer of potato. So once that gets to that point, that's the stacking process that we have there. And then you just take, once you have all your layers on there, I made I can't think of the name, a cartouche. That's what it's called, a cartouche, which is just a circle of parchment paper. It involves, there's a way you fold it, and you fold a chunk of parchment paper into 4, like in half, then in half again. So you've got quarters, then make triangles, then it's really pretty simple, but it's just basically you take a piece of parchment paper and you put it over top of all your layers, and you've got beef stock and butter basically to the top of the potatoes. And you put a weight on there. I just used another cast iron pan, set it right on top, and I put it, I think it was like 250 degrees for an hour in the oven, and that got it all the potatoes cooked through. Everything was hot, good. Pull it out, take that top cast iron pan, that weight off the top, take the cartouche off, and then I put it back in the oven. And just kind of got it to the point where it was golden brown. It was another 20 minutes or so. I did end up getting impatient towards the end and kicked up the heat to like 400 degrees for the last 5-10 minutes just to get I wanted it a little more golden brown. And I got to tell you, those were the best potatoes I think I've ever had in my life. And along with that, I made some Brussels sprouts and asparagus. I roasted them instead of my normal saute method, and sprinkled a little Parmesan cheese on top, and then I had chicken thighs that went along with that. And I just kind of all that work on the potatoes, I was kind of lazy with the chicken thighs. I put them in a casserole dish type of, it wasn't a 9x13, a little smaller, and I had like 6 chicken thighs in there, and I put some cream, I salt, pepper, garlic them, but then I put them in a little cream of chicken soup, and put those in the oven for like a half hour or whatever, and then those cooked through. And cream of chicken soup has a great flavor. I felt kind of bad about, I got Brussels sprouts, I got asparagus, I got these potatoes that are real fancy, and they were phenomenal. And then I've got chicken thighs and cream of chicken soup. But hey, I guess I'm being honest here. I got a little lazy with the prep on the chicken. And then the next day, sorry, that took a long time. My wife and I got to go out for Mexican. We went out to a local Mexican restaurant. I got some chorizo tacos. I love chorizo, and I like to try something that I don't make at home often, but chorizo tacos is honestly something I do make at home. But they just sounded really good. The thing I got with it was a tamale, and I've never made tamales. I would love to do it someday. I just never have. But the chorizo tacos, all they were was chorizo on a corn tortilla with cilantro and white onion. And they called that at the restaurant. They had the option. Do you want Mexican style, which is chorizo and white onion, which is cilantro and white onion, and that's it on top of your protein, or American style. In American style, you have cheese, lettuce, and sour cream, and tomato. And I like the I got the Mexican style. I like a little more of an authentic thing. So we went out for dinner there, got some Mexican, and then the next night, my go-to guilty pleasure that I've talked about before, ordered some Hungry Howie's pizza. Got 3 pizzas. My brother-in-law come over. I'm putting in an electric dog fence for my dog. We've got a decent-sized yard where chain link fence or something just doesn't make sense. An electric fence is the way to go. So he was here helping me. We're working outside all day. This must have been Saturday. And so we just ordered pizza and 3 pizzas. 3 pizzas. A deluxe pizza, got a cheeseburger pizza, and I got a bacon ranch pizza. Anybody listening in Italy, I do know I've had a few listeners in Italy. I'm sorry. I know cheeseburger pizza is not real pizza, neither is, according to people over there, and neither is a chicken bacon ranch pizza, but it sounded good. But 3 pizzas were $50. It's crazy. I could make so many meals for $50, but it's the convenience. It's quick. It's good. We're working, and I don't want to take a break and make the food. Like I said, don't make the best choices all the time, and I'm getting further down. You'll see. Then the next day we had, I had those leftover potatoes from those Yukon Golds that I cut up with a mandolin. And when I cut them up, so this was like 3 days later, I was a little worried if they were going to still be good, but I sliced up all the potatoes I had. And what I didn't use in that dish I described earlier, I had a metal bowl, I filled it with water, and then I put the slices of potato in there and put them and covered them with a plastic wrap and put them in the refrigerator because I was hoping I was going to use them a couple days later. And we were busy on that day, whatever day it was, and so whatever night this is. And so we didn't eat a lot, but I took all those potatoes out and put them on a sheet pan and kind of partially cooked them through, probably I'd say 80% of the way. And then after they in a single layer kind of, and sprinkled them with salt and just a little bit of olive oil brushed on them. And once those were 80%, I pulled them out of the oven and I sprinkled cheese on them. And I had some bacon left from something I had made Sunday afternoon. So I cut up a bunch of bacon pieces and sprinkled that on top and then put those in the oven, basically making potato wedges. But these were like eighth-inch thick slices of potato. And I got, and so they're kind of like potato wedges. And then after I pulled them out of the oven, I had sliced up some chives and sprinkled chives over everything, and that's what we had for dinner. Next night, I made bagel pizzas. If you've never made bagel pizzas, they are really good. We just had some white bagels, white bread bagels, and slice them in half and put your pizza toppings on top of it. Now, the only thing I did with this is I made a homemade pizza sauce. It was really good, turned out really well. I had sauteed a little bit of onion and garlic in some butter and olive oil, got those softened up, And then after that, took about, 2 or 3 tablespoons of tomato paste roughly. I just squeeze it in there and kind of get that tomato paste heated through. After that was done, I poured tomato sauce in the pan, got that up to temp, and I think I sprinkled like I had dried spice or herbs, depending on where you're from, some dried herbs. And it was, what would I have? Oregano, basil, maybe a little bit of thyme, salt, pepper. And then that was kind of it for the sauce, if I believe. And let that simmer for probably about a half an hour. It got really thick, and it was a fantastic pizza sauce. And then put whatever toppings you had on it. I had some jalapeno, some pepperoni, a little bit of that bacon still left over. I used that for that. I bought 1 package of bacon and managed to incorporate it in 3 meals over the week, just by not going overboard when I put it into a dish. And like I've talked about before, bacon's such a powerful flavor that you really don't need a ton of it. Now, if you're having a BLT sandwich, different story, right? But it really works well as a accent, a complement to a dish, instead of if you use too much, it can overpower. Now, granted, a lot of bacon tastes good, right? But you don't need, if you use it sparingly, it's weird that you recognize that, I guess I don't need quite as much of that. And then let's see, I did a chicken breast with a Dijon cream sauce on the next night, and I did roasted broccoli and cauliflower. Roasted broccoli and cauliflower, I got to tell you, I talked early on when I started recording this podcast about my dislike for using the oven as a tool in the kitchen, only because it just didn't feel like I was cooking. It felt like I'm just heating something up. But I tell you what, I did roasted Brussels sprouts and asparagus earlier in the week, and then I also did the broccoli and cauliflower, and that roasted broccoli and cauliflower might have been the best vegetables I've ever had in my life. The crunch that you get from roasting gets a little browning, the texture that you get from that, and I just did olive oil and salt and pepper, kosher salt, some pepper, black pepper, and it was fantastic. I think the chicken I made was so good, and the sauce was unreal. It was chicken breast, but the sauce was a Dijon cream sauce. You got onion, you got garlic, you got heavy cream, a little bit of chicken stock, some lemon juice. Just that acid in that sauce brings it out. You could use white wine instead of lemon juice. And then I had some fresh parsley that I cut up that was about to go bad, or had like a day or two left. Cut that up, throw that in that cream sauce, and that was in the cast iron pan, and let it cook in there. And I got to tell you, that sauce, I told my family in the group text, sent a picture of it, and I said, this was so good, and it was. And I ate a couple spoonfuls of that sauce on its own. All honesty, it was so good. So try it. If you've never made a Dijon cream sauce, like a mustard cream sauce, look it up. It's really simple to make, and it doesn't take long at all. Fantastic. And then that brings me to last night. I've been 20 minutes on this last week. Last night was like I had mentioned at the beginning of this episode, my family's gone up on vacation. I'm home by myself. I had a class last night for almost 4 hours. And so I drove through McDonald's. I did. And I got 3 double cheeseburgers. And I'm not going to lie to you, they were fantastic. And I wanted more than 3. That's the sad part. I don't know what they put in there. As some sort of appetite suppressant must be, because I could eat so many. So good. And I know I shouldn't, but I did. I'm being honest here. That's what happened. I did pretty good. One thing that in looking back at this last week, the thing that I'm most happy about is that the items that I bought, I had very little waste this last week. Like I said, I used that bacon, a few different meals. The potatoes, I bought a 3-pound bag of those Yukon Gold potatoes. I used those for multiple meals. It was just kind of good. In the Parmesan cheese that I did put Parmesan cheese, some real Parmesan cheese in a block that I shredded on top of the broccoli and cauliflower, the roasted broccoli and cauliflower. That I bought a couple weeks ago, and that too, just a little bit goes a long way. And it feels like it's a little more expensive when you buy it, but it was, I don't know, I'd have to look at the cost, but it was like $5 for this wedge of Parmesan, and it just stretches, multiple meals. I used it in the pizza, bagel pizzas that I made. I used it in the broccoli and cauliflower. I even think put a little bit over top of the Brussels sprouts and asparagus when I roasted those. So all these things, when you can extend them over multiple meals throughout the week, it's a good feeling. And I didn't throw out the bacon. A lot of times I'll use these couple chunks of bacon and then I don't, or whatever, or it goes bad and I have to throw it away. So that's what I'm happy about this week. Slipped up a little bit, didn't do great on the dinners with the McDonald's last night and then the Hungry Howie's pizza. But, you win some, you lose some. It's a busy day. We got a lot done the night I got some pizza. I don't feel bad about it. We did 5 out of 7 nights I made a meal. And that's the way you got to look at it, right? I'm always working to get better. Not perfect. Nobody is. Maybe somebody is with the cooking, but that's not me. But if 5 out of 7, that's pretty good for making it in-house at home, right? So that was last week. Long-winded, I know. I hope you enjoy this little segment. If you do, let me know. Tell me if you're liking it. Even tell me if you're not liking it. Am I wasting my time telling people here? I just would love to know. I think for me, I'm always curious what people are making, and so I would love to hear. Now, I made a good chocolate cake. It was really good. A little bit dry, if I'm going to be completely honest and transparent with my assessment of it, but it was a raspberry chocolate cake, 3-layer cake that we had for my mom's birthday lunch kind of thing on Sunday. It was really good. I made the cake from scratch. I made the frosting from scratch. Really good flavor. I would have liked to have the cake been just a little bit more moist, but overall it was definitely good. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that I made, and I'm doing. I think we're headed in the right direction, but it's just those days you get busy, like we all know, like the excuses we all have, where we don't plan ahead, and hey, we're going out. And honestly, I hadn't had a McDonald's double cheeseburger in quite a while, and it sounded good. So that was my excuse. I'm kind of a bachelor this week, or this end of this week, so I'm gonna just take it full advantage and do that. Okay, sweet. That's that. Let's move on into today's topic now. Half hour in. Boy, I'm going to have to move quick. But that's okay. I don't always, like I said before, I don't always eat breakfast or make breakfast, but I do love a good breakfast sandwich or a breakfast burrito. They're simple, really. I tend to complicate things, but you can make them as simple as you want. There's, like I've talked about before, I like to make something authentic if I can. So when I think of like a breakfast burrito or a breakfast taco, I actually was just earlier today watching a video of a guy on YouTube who's got over 1 million subscribers, and a guy from Mexico. And so Mexican guy making tacos, makes sense. And he had 3 kinds of breakfast tacos, huevos and chorizo. And huevos is eggs in Spanish. So he's like huevos and chorizo, huevos and papas free. I'm not good at Spanish. I don't know why I just don't say it in English. I probably should. But is it frijoles? No, that's beans. Anyway, let's do the English version. Egg and chorizo taco, egg and potato taco, and egg and bacon taco. 3 different tacos. And I'm not kidding you. These might have been like authentic Mexican tacos. We made flour tortillas for them. And it was literally just making scrambled eggs and cooking bacon and making scrambled eggs and cooking chorizo and making eggs and frying potatoes and putting them in the flour tortilla shell. That literally was according to him, the authentic breakfast tacos. Now, I think anybody listening to this podcast can make all of those foolproof that way first try. I am pretty confident. And this guy does have, like I said, he's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's not making that simple of stuff all the time. And he's got some really, really good recipes that I like. But it was just kind of funny to me that it's like, he's just making scrambled eggs and frying bacon and throwing them in the tortilla shell. That's all it's no sauce, no herbs, not even any cilantro, nothing. And, but hey, it's still going to be, just doing that is a good meal. But if I'm making a breakfast burrito, again, I just talked about using what I have, cleaning out the refrigerator, using stuff at the end of the week. And that's a great breakfast burrito, in my mind, is a fantastic way to take that leftover quarter of an onion that you have, half a bunch of cilantro maybe, some other type of vegetable that you might have, so a few potatoes, a little bit of bacon, some sausage, ham, whatever protein, chicken. You could. It seems weird to have an egg and chicken breakfast burrito, but if you've got it, maybe add some cumin and some chili powder or something to give it a little more spice, a little more flavor, and do that. I think that's the beautiful thing about a burrito is you can just encapsulate all these different items and they just kind of meld together. And some cheese, you got a couple random cheeses that you don't have much left of. It's not that it needs to be just a clean out the refrigerator meal or a dish, but it can definitely be used that way. And it's a good way to use it up. And now if you cook all that up, they're not going to go bad. Put them in the freezer if you're not eating them that immediately, if you're meal prepping for the next week. But I'd say my favorite, I love chorizo. There's something about the spice and the flavor that chorizo has. I think it's similar. It can be similar if you buy it. It all depends where you make it. Where you buy it. Some of the stuff you buy in the tube at Walmart, I'm not going to lie, it tastes absolutely fantastic, but I think it's basically whatever goes into a hot dog goes into that type of chorizo. It's who knows what parts it is. Maybe not the best choice, but it tastes so good and I love it. And so I'll make my ideal one would be a breakfast burrito that has egg, chorizo, white onion, some cilantro, a salsa or a hot sauce of some kind, and even some potatoes. There's something about some fried potatoes in a breakfast burrito that just goes so well together. And you can get as big as, as crazy as you want. Like I said before, if you want to do simple, like the guy that I was watching, just do eggs and a protein or something. And eggs and a potato. It's not, I don't know if that's technically vegetarian, if vegetarians eat eggs. I don't know. But it's not you don't have to have the meat. And the potatoes actually are a good meat substitute if you don't have any meat or don't want to put any in there, want to just kind of stay away from meat for whatever reason for it. They do taste really good. A little cheese. And, typically I'll have a cheddar cheese. If you go to somewhere like McDonald's, they've got an American cheese, like 6 pieces of little sausage, and probably some kind of sauce. I don't know. I'm sure it tastes good because they got that stuff dialed in, but it's not. I prefer, like a cheddar cheese. Even I do like The creaminess of American cheese is really good. It's not my go-to for the simple fact that I know that while I will enjoy the flavor of an American cheese, I know that the processed cheese is not as good for me. It's cheese, I get it, but I lean towards personally a cheddar or a Colby or a Oaxacan cheese if I have it. I don't always have it. So I'll just go the cheddar route, a harder cheese or something like that. And then if you want to make up some kind of sauce, you can make up like a chipotle sauce or something, or just put some sour cream in. And obviously you can go as crazy as you want, but that's my ideal thing is a breakfast burrito like that. Egg, chorizo, onion, cilantro, a salsa or a hot sauce. Sometimes I don't put that in there because I'm probably it's going to be hot when I right when I make it, especially if I'm prepping it for another meal. Then I will definitely not put the salsa in because it's going to get hot when I'm first making the burrito. After then it's going to cool down, and then it's going to be hot again when I reheat it. I'd rather just have it as something that I'll kind of dip the burrito in when I do finally get to eating it, or the hot sauce or whatever. But sometimes I'll put it in. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. I don't usually do lettuce, iceberg lettuce anyway, or usually it's the cilantro. Iceberg lettuce gets kind of soft and loses its crunch pretty quick. There's a lot of moisture in there. You got steam and stuff from the protein and from the eggs. And so it just doesn't carry over well unless, I guess you could do it if you're eating it right away. You can almost make like an omelet, if you do a spinach mushroom omelet and some feta cheese or something like that. Basically make an omelet and put a tortilla around it. That's going to be whatever flavors you like, maybe some Kalamata olives or whatever. You can do that, and it's going to be a really good version of a burrito, kind of a hybrid type thing. I think sometimes the tortilla acts as just a container for whatever we're putting in there. Well, obviously it does, but it kind of is a blank canvas like many other things, but it's a blank canvas, and put in it what you like, and it's going to be good with a flour tortilla. Now, personally, I do like to seal that tortilla. I like browning it and having a hot pan or hot griddle and putting it folded side down and kind of sealing that. And then once that gets brown, flip it over and almost make similar version to a Taco Bell burrito. Some of those Taco Bell burritos, in all honesty, I like a seared tortilla on a burrito like that. It just tastes good. I don't even know if it adds flavor. It looks good. It kind of seals everything together. I hate when burritos, like the bottom, if something gets untucked, and I tend to overfill. So if I don't seal it like that, that is a problem. Now you could have some rice in there too, or some beans, or there's just so many options. Anything you would put in a regular burrito. And then we say a breakfast burrito, and we tend to just, all that really means is whatever flavors you normally like plus egg, right? And you can make scrambled eggs any way you would like. You can basically make, like I said before, I typically will make an omelet, pretty much, and then cut it and fold it over to fit in the tortilla shell that I've got, depending on the size. And it just is a thin layer of egg. You can double it up, flip it on top of itself, or you can just do a single layer if you just want a little bit of that egg in there. However you want to do it. And it's a relatively, I don't know if it's inexpensive at the moment with the cost of eggs, but it's a very simple way to do things, or a way to make a breakfast thing. And they freeze really well. They reheat really well, no matter what method you want to use to reheat them. If you're one of those crazy people that I am not, if you're like my brother or whatever, you just eat them cold. That's fine. I'm sure it probably does taste fine. I just prefer something warm. so I'll heat it up. Get creative, though. If I can say anything, get creative. Either get really creative or just keep it simple. Whatever, do what you want. That's my breakfast burrito. I don't think that's anything crazy. There's so many different ways. You get some like hash browns in there. If you've got, shred some potato and shred some russet potato, soak them in water, and then for like a half hour, get rid of some of that starch, and then make some hash browns. Those always are good in a breakfast burrito too. So do what you want. Do what you want. And then a breakfast sandwich. I think that the best, I don't know why I just stopped talking. I like to mimic fast food. I think in the United States, that's a tendency that because I like the flavors. I'm accustomed to the flavors of fast food. So the part of fast food that you want to get away from is the processed part, right? The flavors, if you can achieve a similar flavor or better and have a similar design, I think they've figured out, the McDonald's, the Taco Bell, the Wendy's, the Arby's, they've figured out the best way to, I don't know if it's deliver the food in a way from the back of their kitchen to your table, your kitchen, your car, whatever, to your mouth. And so I like McDonald's has a steak bagel breakfast sandwich or a sausage bagel breakfast sandwich that's really good. The Burger King's got this croissant breakfast sandwich that is so good. And McDonald's got the Egg McMuffin, of course. And the big difference between these items, obviously, is the type of bread that you want to use or type of carb. And we can do the breakfast burrito that's using a tortilla shell. We can do basically making an Egg McMuffin that's got an English muffin as our bun, so to speak. And then, like I said, obviously the croissant from Burger King has a crescent roll as its bun, and the steak bagel sandwich is a bagel as the bun, and they all have their benefits. The croissant, I've never made a croissant. I love a croissant, and I love a croissant bagel or a croissant breakfast sandwich. I've made these up at Deer Camp. When I've been up there, made these for all the guys, bought them. I have never once even attempted to make them. The layers and the flakiness and the butter and the dough and just not my area at the moment. Never tried. I know that is not going to be a first time turned out pretty good situation. I haven't even attempted it yet. Maybe someday. So I'll buy a croissant. And then there's something about the sausage, and I'm not saying it's better, but I think personally, as much as I love bacon, if I'm making a breakfast sandwich of any kind or a breakfast burrito, some type of sausage is what I want. And chorizo's kind of is a sausage, like a pork product. And for whatever reason, it's the saltiness, the fattiness, the substance, substantial. It's like a real meat. Bacon is a real meat, but especially any type of a fast food place, they slice that so thin that it's not like you're really getting a bite of meat. You got this bacon flavored paper almost because of how thin it is, in my opinion. And so I like sausage, but I'll do a croissant and then make the egg. There's multiple ways you can make an egg. I like, if I'm making a Egg McMuffin style sandwich, it's very simple. The recipe there, you've got sausage or bacon or ham, if you want to use some ham or Canadian bacon, and an egg, a fried, or what they would call fried egg. And what else do you got there? Cheese. That's it. I mean, you want to talk simple. And the flavors just go so good together. Now, if I'm doing something like that, I will try to do, or I'll make a fried egg. Now, on a sandwich, it's kind of risky to do a over easy egg or a sunny side up egg. Anything with a runny yolk, even over medium, you might be okay with an over medium. That's kind of the goal I shoot for, because I like a runny egg yolk. But in a sandwich, I spill on myself way too much with, I don't know, something that is almost impossible to spill will end up on the front of my shirt. So I want to make sure that if I'm doing a sandwich, especially if it's something I'm going to take traveling with me or I'm going to have on the road on my way to the job site, it's make sure that the yolk is cooked through. If you're eating it, if I'm eating it for dinner, making them for dinner or making them for breakfast, I'm going to eat it immediately. I'll definitely keep a runny yolk and make sure I'm leaning over a plate. But that's all it is, right? It's egg, some type of meat, cheese, and the bun, and an Egg McMuffin. Now, I am very, I think in general, in the United States, we are very condiment heavy compared to other places. I know even in the Mexican cuisine, there's a lot of different salsas. And that's kind of the main condiment. I think salsa just means sauce in Spanish. And there's a lot of different types of salsa. They're all made I shouldn't say that. They're probably not all made similarly. But, you got a tomato. If you use tomatillos, if you use Roma tomatoes or whatever type of tomato, but you have the salsa roja, you got salsa verde, you have all these different, the guy I worked with that was from Mexico, I think I've mentioned it before, but he had certain salsas that went with certain dishes. You didn't have salsa verde with blank. I don't know. I don't remember what he had said. And you didn't have salsa roja with whatever. And depending on the type of food you were eating, that's the type of salsa. In the United States, fast food chains have mayonnaise-based sauces. Almost every sauce, even at Taco Bell, they've got a base of mayonnaise. Taco Bell, it's mayonnaise, sour cream, maybe some of their like hot sauce spices, a little cumin, and whatever, and in their to make like their quesadilla sauce, whatever. And so I do like a sauce on my English muffin even. Just a little bit of some kind of sauce. Personally, I want heat. I'm not opposed to taking a really good spicy hot sauce. I don't really want buffalo sauce like a Frank's Red Hot or a Tabasco necessarily on a breakfast sandwich. I love salsa on egg. If I'm having just a fried egg or a poached egg or something like that, I love the combination of a fresh salsa or a pico de gallo with the egg. It just adds a freshness to the richness and of the egg, but it's some kind of condiment. And I don't feel bad necessarily about making a sauce from scratch, or even just taking a little sour cream. Now, if you want to stay, I guess technically, I don't know if it's any better for you, honestly. I think it's more probiotic related, but if you did a Greek yogurt and added some garlic and some chili powder and a few other, you could really doctor up something and make some type of a spread to put on there. Or if you don't want it, you don't have to have it, and that's your base level, and that's what you're getting from a fast food place. But you have no processed parts other than the sausage itself, and depending on what kind of cheese you want to use. If you use a cheddar or whatever, I mean, everything's got a process to it, right? We're talking minimally processed is what we're aiming for. It's the ultra processed foods and stuff that become the problem. And it's the same assembly setup and situation for a croissant breakfast sandwich. You're doing the same thing. You're putting it on there. Now, I bought these little silicone rings that are like, 3-inch diameter circle maybe, that you put on a griddle or on a flat pan. It has worked with my cast iron pan. You have to be careful what kind of pan you use. It doesn't damage the pan or damage the rings in any way, but you just don't get a tight seal at the bottom, depending if your pan has any type of curvature at the bottom of it. So you need a flat surface. But they work really well for making, especially the Egg McMuffin style I don't want to say even Egg McMuffin. It is that style, but a sandwich on an English muffin like that, because it makes that perfect round circle the size of the bun. Now, does it matter if you do a fried egg and it's hanging over the side of the sandwich a little bit? No, it doesn't matter at all. It's more a presentation thing, And so they do work pretty well, though. I would recommend them if it's just you need a flat cooking surface. Once I realized what pans I can and can't use with it, then they worked great. The first time I tried, I thought they were a complete waste of money, but they do work well. And that's kind of, you do that on a croissant. Now, something about a bagel, even the store-bought ones. I'm not from New York, and so I don't care about the bagel with the New York water and all that stuff that they get into. It's not a real bagel if you, whatever. I'll buy it off the shelf from somebody. I've never made bagels personally. I've made pretzels, soft pretzels and stuff like that. I've made breads, all that. Man, I'm just thinking here, you make a breakfast sandwich, I need to make some more of that jalapeno cheddar Dutch oven bread or a good sourdough bread. If you make a breakfast sandwich doing this thing and you just do the same steps but use that as your bread, it'd be so good too. But using a bagel as the bun is so good. And then you can do, if you got time and you want to do it, you got some onion, make some caramelized onion, and you put that on top of the sandwich. Oh, it's so good with a little caramelized onion on there. Something about a raw onion on along with a breakfast sandwich to me doesn't seem like the ideal setup. But if you're a big fan of onion, go for it. Why not? Use what you got. And I think that it's just a good way to eat breakfast for me. I love it. I like a breakfast sandwich. I do like making eggs. My favorite egg is a poached egg. I love making poached eggs. They're really not that difficult. It takes about 3 eggs, and then you start to figure out how to do it properly, and you will not have a problem after that. And so that's what I like if I'm doing eggs and toast and doing it all separate like you would at a diner. You got your sausage, you got your egg, you got your toast and whatever. Now, I've only done it once, and it did turn out pretty well. Basically made a pancake and made a McGriddle type of breakfast sandwich, the McDonald's McGriddle. Again, trying to copycat the fast food restaurants. Now, if you take your sausage, when you cook your sausage, they do sell like maple sausage or stuff like that, but you can also just take maple syrup or something and kind of use that as your sauce. If you get some real maple syrup, some good stuff, not some what am I looking for? Not cane sugar, corn syrup with maple flavoring, whatever that is. If you get some real maple syrup and drizzle that over your in the crevices that you've got in an English muffin, instead of doing some sort of yogurt sauce or a mayonnaise-based sauce on your, that would just is so good too. But you can make like pancakes, and you can do them in a way. You almost have to overcook them if you're going to make a traditional pancake. And that's where those little silicone rings that I was talking about for the egg, those really work well for that too. Or you get like a ring mold, like a metal ring. I don't have them myself. That's kind of on my want list, not my need list. Just different size circles you can use them for cutting out doughs or for something like that, where you'd pour a batter in like a pancake type batter. The Japanese cuisine, or I don't know if it's the Japanese cuisine in general, or Japan they're very creative with their food. A lot of crazy combinations, and doing like the United States has some weird combinations. I'll even admit, like ballpark foods type of stuff. If you look into like baseball ballparks, the stuff that they're coming up with is pretty crazy. But Japan has a pretty insane food scene too, where they've got just all these crazy stuff. So, but the Japanese pancake, if you type that into Pinterest or into YouTube or whatever, it's going to bring up, you'll see they're tall. Like it's almost like a pancake souffle. It just puffs up thick, and they're like 2 inches thick. They look really good. That'd be too thick for a breakfast sandwich bun, but maybe if, depending on how dense it is, it's something, if it was 2 inches tall, you could probably slice it in half and use that as your bun, and then now you've got basically a McGriddle. We're not talking health food here, right? But do that, or just drizzle some maple syrup on there's nothing better than a little bit of egg, and you got maple syrup on your sausage and bacon or whatever. It just all blends well together for a sweet and a salty and a fatty kind of flavor you get with the cheese and the meat and the egg and the bread. And I'm about ready to eat a breakfast sandwich right now. I might be making one of those for myself this weekend. But that's kind of what I got. I mean, I don't think anything here is groundbreaking, right? It's just putting things together, stacking them up, and saucing them, doing whatever you got. But I guess my main suggestion with it is to, if at the end of the week you're looking at meal prepping for the next week, a fantastic way to take what you have left over in the refrigerator that you might not have full quantities for a meal on its own, put it together to make a handful of breakfast burritos or breakfast sandwiches, and just get creative with that. And we're trying not to waste. I'm trying not to waste, right? So that's just one way that I can utilize the last remaining produce in my refrigerator before I buy more. I need to use up what I've got before I go out and buy more stuff. I need to cut down on food waste. That's a goal of mine. But yeah, so I hope something here was interesting to you. Let me know. Comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me. It really does help. I've started doing that with all the other people. It does make a difference if you follow and rate the podcast. I would appreciate it greatly. I used to think it was just something that would, I didn't do it. Now I do it to all the podcasts that I actually do follow or do enjoy listening to. It just helps them along. It would help me a lot. For a good rating and any comments or whatever. Let me know what you do different or the same, or if this is something that you're passionate about for whatever reason. I'd love to hear what you're making throughout the week too. Any comments, I'll get into a segment of sharing comments that I get because I just think it's cool to talk about what we're cooking out here, right? Thank you for listening to the Cook Better podcast. I will talk to you next time.